All right, what's going on, everyone? This is Brandon Thomas. Welcome to the Brandon Thomas podcast. I'm actually here with my special guest, Lucas Saad, over here in my new location in Real Estate Hub. So Lucas is going to break down his entire journey, actually starting from Brazil in real estate investing, and now he's over here in San Diego, California, doing his real estate investing career as well. So I want you to welcome Lucas Saad.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
I'm glad
absolutely.
we're doing this, and I hope I can bring value to everyone and just share a little bit of my story. And yeah, let's do it.
Sweet, awesome, good deal. Yeah, so coming from Brazil, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what is your story like?
Oh man, yeah, it's a long story, but I went to high school in Canada back in 2014, and when I moved back to Brazil, I think it was like the end of the World Cup, and I just couldn't, take it anymore. Living, in a different country, I was like, I gotta do something else for myself. And my parents, they have they're wealthy and they have really good, life, but I just wanted to build my own empire. So I was like, I'm moving out of Brazil. And I had a friend that, lived in San Diego at the time, and I decided to kind of like, okay, I'm gonna, take on this adventure and just, see what the United States has for me.
Dang.
So I moved here. My idea at first was to kind of go to college and just kind of like keep going and move on in my career as a chef. I didn't really know what to do at the time, but I really like to cook because I'm very creative, and I was like, why not? Let's try it out. And so when I moved here, I started going to school and kind of like having a little gig here and there, and till I actually got into a restaurant and started working. But it wasn't really my thing. I never dreamed to have my own restaurant or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of always trying to find, like a way of getting out of it because I was also on a visa at the time. And but my dad, who's actually in real estate and he has a background for years back home, he was always telling me, like, you got to get into real estate. You got to, get your license as an agent. And I'm like, I want to, but I really need the connection, right? It's always about knowing the right person and just kind of like having a mentor. And so, long story short, I finally met my wife, who's actually a realtor in San Diego. She has 10 plus years of experience. And so she was kind of the door when I actually got started in this world. And it's interesting because so my dad owns a multifamily, and it's about, I think it's like 10 doors and 2 commercials.
Okay.
And then we have other properties back in Brazil as well, and so we're always dealing with real estate in general, but also he has his license back home, so he sells and buy. And so when I met my wife, I was like, I don't know, it must be the destiny or something, And I was excited because I've been always like researching about real estate and just business in general, just trying to grow and reading a bunch of books. And so when I actually met her, I was like, okay, this is my chance. So I started just reading, and okay, I'm gonna take my license. She was like super supportive about it. She wanted to help me just get my first deal.
Yeah.
And you sell home. But it wasn't really like my thing because I like reading and studying, but I like reading and studying things that actually bring value to my life. And reading, about like just getting a license, a real estate license that you're never even gonna use it. Most of the stuff.
Yeah.
I was just not really excited about it, so I started procrastinating a lot about it. And one day, in the meantime, I was helping my wife with like open houses and kind of like going over the contract. So I was really like shadowing her through the process that she had clients and all that. She sells a lot of homes. So one day at an open house, I think it was my 4th or 5th open house, I was kind of like guiding the clients through, even without a license, I was kind of like acting, I was the real deal already. I met a guy, he walks in and then he's like, we just started talking. We were in a house in La Jolla. It was like a $2.5 million home. And he's like, oh, the home is great. And, there's a lot of space for like improvements and maybe like doing an ADU or whatever. And then we kind of connect, and he just, I don't know why, but he just started talking about creative financing. And then I looked at him, and as I was like studying for the real estate exam, all is like FHA, conventional stuff, and I'm like what is creative financing, right? So he kind of started talking about it, but he didn't even go over that much. So
it was like a little teaser.
Yeah. And then he's like, just YouTube or Google it or put it on YouTube, creative financing, and you're gonna learn more about it. And I was like, okay. So I don't know why, I was just like, let me Google it. So I go on YouTube, creative financing. The first video that pops up is Pace Morby and Grant Cardone.
Of course, yeah.
So, and then I think a lot of people watched the same video and kind of just got started in creative financing. And so, so I watched that video and I was just like, what the heck? Like, how am I not doing this already? Like, why am I not doing this? And so after that video, I think I started watching like all Pace's videos, like 6-hour videos, 5-hour videos, 3 hours. So I just started consuming a lot of content, and then my wife just started going crazy because she's like, dude, all you talk about is creative financing and subject to and seller financing. And I'm like, you really need no money out of pocket to buy a house, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, you should do this. I think if I had the opportunity back, like 7-10 years ago, I would have done it. But now I'm kind of like, in the business already, and I have a lot of referrals. Like, it wouldn't work for me the same way. But maybe we can make something, like work something out together, right?
Right.
Because the goal was for me to take my license at first, so we can kind of do like a couple business, like sell for families. A lot of people, they kind of like see that, like in a realtor, and they're like, oh, like, it's a couple, and maybe like they see that family and they kind of have a connection or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was just not for me. I was not excited about it. I loved, showing homes and having like creating content, but it wasn't like, I wasn't excited about the people part, right? Like having to deal with people, and so the retail. And I think a lot of agents don't really like that too. So
it's kind of like a forced responsibility as opposed to a passion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's super amazing helping out people out buying their first home, but it's also their biggest purchase, or maybe one of the biggest purchase in their life. So people are annoying, right? It's like as they shoot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's their biggest asset. So and then I was like, okay, let me see how I'm gonna figure this out. So I started talking to other people, and then I was like, how am I gonna build like all these contracts? And because I kind of started having a lot of information, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna need a lawyer. I'm gonna have to build the contracts to do like properly. And watching Pace's video, he's like, yeah, you need a JV agreement. You need like a subject to proper paperwork. And I'm like, how am I going to get that? I barely have money to open my LLC.
What's a JV agreement?
So it's like a joint venture contract that, for example, we want to partner up. We can fill it up, the contract. And so we're kind of legally doing it properly. Everyone gets their cut.
Okay.
I think there might be a better way to explain it, but that's
essentially an official partnership, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, how am I going to do this? And so a day passed by, and for some reason I didn't know Pace had like a mentorship or like he would always call like students, but I never, like, he never advertised it like come join me or anything like that. So one day for some reason I just fill it up, one of the emails he sent me, and then somebody called me. It's like, yeah, so are you interested in the mentorship? And I'm like, yeah, like I'm like, that's what I've been looking for, but I don't really know what you guys have, and like I want to be like a student, and work with Pace, but like how does that work? And so the guy was like, yeah, so we have a mentorship. It's like, it's pretty much called like a community, we don't really call it mentorship because it's just like a whole community, and this is what we offer, and like, are you interested? And I was like, yeah. But I was like, how much is that, right?
Right. So, that's always the first thing, right? It's like, okay, yeah, no, I'm very interested, but how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
How much am I going to invest in this mentorship, this community, quote unquote, that you're talking about?
Yeah, and he always said too, like, I'm not advertising, don't be my student, like, and I was like, okay, this guy is like the real deal, right? So, and then I was like a little like worried because I was like, he never advertised it, but now like they're, wanting to charge me. So I was like a little skeptical about it, and then he's like, oh yeah, so it's like this much, and I'm like, in the middle of like my residency process and spent a bunch of money with lawyers and stuff.
Yeah.
And just got married, and I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do?
Bad time.
But then I was like, I'll find a way, right? Like I'm a hustler. I don't care. Like I'll find a way. So then with the little I learned on that like time that I was, graduating from YouTube University, I was like, all right, but can we work out terms, right? Because creative financing is all about like structuring the deal, and obviously there's the pain and all that we can obviously cover later on. But I was like, okay, I use the same technique that they use when we were buying homes with them, and I was like, okay, like can we work out terms? And I mean, I'm not gonna pay up front everything, and
right.
Like, and then
I'll give you the price that you want. But the terms have to work for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I told the guy, I was like, hey, I don't really have the means right now because of this, and that. And so what can we do? And he's like, oh, can you give like this much? And it was like a large amount. And I'm like, hell no. Like I told you I don't have the money. And he's like, oh, you got to give something down. I'm like, all right, what's the minimum you can give? And then so we structured in a way that I was actually able to afford. And so I was like, you want to start tomorrow? I was like, okay, let me talk to my wife, because now I'm a married guy. It's not like I can do
you can't make these solo decisions. Yeah.
So I talked to my wife. She's like, dude, all you talk about is creative financing. Like, just go do it. Like I'll support you. And I really think it's like the real deal. Because as Pace always, mentions, like you're only in real estate if you're buying and selling. And if you're just the middleman, you're not really into real estate.
Right.
And a lot of people are still like a little skeptical about that, right? Like realtors or notary people and
it rubs them the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean they're part of the industry, but they're not in the industry, so they're kind of service providers. And so I started the mentorship, and then the amount of information was just like, oh my God. And I was like, but I was still amazed about it, right? So I was just trying to like find a strategy that I could use so I can just start making money. And so what happened was I was like, okay, I have like a lot of free time right now. I make my schedule, like I'm gonna tackle all these classes and learn as much as I can. So once I finish, I'm just gonna take action.
Okay.
But it's just a lot of information, and so I tried my best, and my wife was like, well, you're not making calls. She started pressuring me. She's like, I've been getting calls from people like trying to like this like sub 2 thing, and I'm like, damn, like I gotta take action. But I was just like, I want to finish this. I'm like, it was my goal, right? And I talked to my MSA, which is like the advisor we get when we join the mentorship, and so I finished the classes, and then okay, now I'm ready to take action. So that's when I like posted on the community like, hey y'all, like I'm Lucas and this is what I do, this is my background, I'm ready to take action. I'm trying to like get deals. Like I didn't say I didn't know what to do, but I was like, should I join a team, should I like kind of do it on my own?
And you have so many options once you get into this.
Exactly.
It's easy to get paralyzed in like the amount of information and options that are available to you. So I completely get it.
And like I told you, I was like in the middle of like a residency paperwork, so I didn't have the money barely to pay the mentorship. Imagine to open an LLC and all that. So I was like,
especially in California.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna join somebody's team, and so I texted a couple of people and actually connect with this lady in South Florida, and I joined their team. It's a team in South Florida. Jill, Jonah, and John. And they did a little training, and I started making calls.
Nice.
And then 3 days later, I closed my first deal.
Heck yeah.
So I was like, okay, this might work. And this is like a little sum of like the whole story. I think I'd probably skip a lot of stuff, but that's kind of like how I ended up.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, thanks for actually taking us from like pretty much the beginning all the way to essentially now. So, that's fantastic. But I am going to backtrack a little bit. So I'm going to get into like a little bit of the nitty gritty of like some key points that I found along the way. Yeah. So you jumped in from Brazil all the way over to America. did you even have any family here in America, or like
Oh.
friends, or like what made you decide to, like, just take the jump? Like, did you do it by yourself? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so that's interesting because I have no family here. I had one friend that I grew up with back home, and that was like the only person I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And why did I move? I don't know. I think because I experienced Canada in high school, and I saw like there was a whole world out there, and in Brazil there's like a lot of corruption, and it's a third country.
Yeah.
And combined with like being under my dad's wing, like I was like I'm meant to like be successful. I want to be a millionaire, billionaire, and like I want to like build my empire. And outside is like where I can do that, or I mean in the States.
Right.
So I don't know. I think some people say it's like a voice in your head, right? Like you gotta move, you gotta find something, and I think that was it. Like I just wanted to get out, and the political situation at the time, I was like very smart in a sense. Like I was always looking for information, so I knew the country was gonna go like pretty bad in a couple of years, because politics is like that, right? People talk about it, talk a lot of shit, but what you do now, you're only gonna see the results in a couple of years, right? So people are talking, oh, this president sucks, he's racist, or this or that, but actually everything he's doing now, you're maybe gonna see in 2-3 years, or maybe more, right?
Exactly.
So what he's actually doing and harvesting is from the previous, presidents and so yeah, and then that's kind of like, I think, a voice or God, whatever you want to define. And I just wanted something more. And then when I landed here, I just felt like home, and I was like, this is where I'm gonna build my empire, build my family, and where I want to be.
Okay.
So,
good deal. Yeah, because I mean, that it definitely takes a strong person to actually know that you want to make that change, and then it takes an even bigger person to actually even act on that change. So I definitely commend you for doing that. So
yeah, and I think like when I was 18, in Brazil, when you're 18, you're already over age, or you're an adult, I guess that's how you define it. But I always told my dad, like, once I'm 18, I'm moving out, and because we have a multifamily, I was like, I'm just gonna go live there, one of the apartments. But then I started like actually experiencing like adulting, right? Like paying bills, and I was like, shit, I can't do that.
Let me go back.
Yeah, I can't do that by myself. And back home, like, you barely make money, and people struggle a lot. So I was like, I either live by myself, but then how I'm gonna buy a car and do this, and then I was like, and then the American dream kind of caught me. I never was fooled about it, but I kind of knew you could actually build something better. So I was like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. So I just did it. Here I am, 8 years in, and that's been a good journey.
Yeah, because I can only imagine once you actually came out of Brazil, and then you didn't have any money, right? So you moved in to a place completely foreign. Like, I'm not too sure. Did you speak English at all, or?
Yeah, because I went to high school in Canada, and I kind of got by. My English still a little, here and there.
I can understand you.
Yeah, you can understand me, but yeah, I mean, I did speak like some good English.
Okay, so you're able to get around, yeah. Because I know I talk to some people, and they make that drastic life decision, and they don't even speak the language that they're going to, or to the I guess the primary country's language. They don't even speak that, so they go in, they're like, I'm just gonna figure it out. Like, I know a lot of people from Mexico, they come over to America, they don't even speak English, and somehow they make a way, they learn English along the way, they build an empire themselves, and it's like, wow, you're able to do it. So I mean, like, I love that hustle, I love that tenacity, because obviously, as well as this, in real estate investing, you're gonna need that hustle. Like, you don't have the answers right away, you just gotta go find it.
You gotta go get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, being a chef, like, you already touched on a lot of it, but you moved over here and you decided to become a chef because you thought it was something that you can excel at because you're creative. How did that go for you?
It went well. I kind of liked it in the beginning, but my overall goal, like building a family and like becoming a millionaire, like, I knew it was not going to happen being a chef, like, unless you're like Gordon Ramsay or, like, it's hard to make a living. And I loved it because I could actually just like create dishes, and I'm actually very good.
Sweet.
I'm a very good chef, or I was. So I was able to create a lot of dishes, and that, creativity and like inspiration of like doing like that hospitality, environment. Like I liked it a lot, but it wasn't like my dream or owning a place or anything like that. I wanted to build a family, being able to like, build like passive income and stuff like that. And people who are in the industry know like being a chef or being a cook, it's like stressful. You work a lot of hours and you barely make a living. And so when I met my wife, and she made at the time, I think it was like 3 months, she made what I made an entire year as a chef. I was like, why am I doing this? Like working like 15-hour days and making like, I can even
pennies.
specify, because obviously depending, I went to school, so I graduated as a culinary arts or culinarian, whatever they call it. And so I had like a degree, and I was good at what I was doing, but still, like, I think the salary in California, like the base is like 100, 120 if you're working for a good company. So I was like, this is not gonna take me where I want to be. And like obviously, like I'm saying 15-hour days, but we know like as an entrepreneur you work way more than that. At least you're making money, and like what we are doing here, we actually like helping the community and bringing value and doing something way bigger than I could ever imagine. So this is kind of like I was able to find, with creative financing, I was able to find a way to actually like impact the community and my friends and family, and I also like be around people that I always watched on Instagram or YouTube, right? Like we were in a meeting and there was like a bunch of millionaires around, people that I was like, I'll never think I'll be around these people, and there we were like just chopping it up and getting the golden nuggets, and I was like, damn, like I'm gonna make where I want to be, and I'm going to be successful, and one day I'm going to be where they at and inspiring people. And this is like the hustle that I've been working on right now.
Yeah, for sure. And we're not throwing any shade on any cooks or any chefs or in the industry, because definitely that service is completely necessary. We love like the creativity involved. Like I couldn't do anything like that. It's definitely something that we cherish. It just sounds like you're not really passionate about that. You found another avenue that you could actually put a lot of time into that's going to yield a lot more of what you're looking for. So that's really good. So you mentioned that you're looking for passive income with real estate investing, and it's also awesome because I mean you have like this power team. Like your wife is a realtor, and then now you're an investor, so you could actually take both the pros of both industries and then combine them together to make this like powerhouse. So you said you're looking for passive income. So like, what does that look like for you? Like, what's your end goal with real estate investing?
Yeah, first of all, shout out to all the chefs out there, people that are busting their ass in the kitchen. It's a hard work, and I hope everyone can make a living and just get where they want, even if it's what they love. I know it's tough industry, and I wish people value more what they do, but it is what it is, and you gotta make your own path and be successful. There are ways to do that, and it's just not for me. So my goal, my dad is really successful, and we have like a lot of assets back home, and so we were working previously with like property management and like just getting that passive income from our assets that we have back home. And it was always a dream for me, and I don't know, like my dad, like he's my best friend, and so I always looked up to him, and a lot of these people like Pace, Grant Cardone, and all these like successful people out there, I looked at them and I'm like, okay, like I see my dad kind of like doing the same thing and building his thing, and so I was like, how can I create something similar, but just building my own thing, right? And so I started kind of working with my dad a little bit, as far as like how he was dealing with the assets and how he was building the cash flow. But at some point, he was like, I'm paying too much in property taxes, or property management, I'm sorry, and then I'm paying too much in taxes. And the government's kind of like taking half of my properties, right? So that's when we decided to like take everything apart and like renovate all the assets we have, and now we're just running an Airbnb business because there's not many regulations back home. So that kind of helps us out because I'm not sure right now because we've been doing it for a month or two now with just Airbnbs. But we are like 5x or close to 10x of what we made in a month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
It's going great, you know, and looking like everything he was doing, and I was like, okay, I got to create something. And so with the creative finance, I think my mind just blew and it opened like a new reality that I was like, I can buy a property a month if I want, or even more, right? But like I can buy one property a month if I buy one in 12 months or one every month for a year, 12 months. I can have 12 properties if I have a cash flow of like 200 to 700 a month. But my goal is at around 500. Like that's a full salary right there. That you kind of make it as a chef, right?
That's true.
So my goal, like overall, right now I'm kind of trying to build my own team and build like I'm trying to build like not a savings, you know, but like having like some chunk of money that I can start doing my own transactions with my own team. And my goal for the next 10 years is to have 200,000 in cash flow.
Nice.
But my goal for the next year, I want to buy one property per month, and I want to average it around $500 in cash flow, so I can at least for the next year have around 5,000 a month in cash flow.
Right.
And the way that I'm gonna do that is through creative financing, right? Most likely subject to or seller finance. This is what I've been doing. We lock around like 15-20 deals a month with my team, depending on the month, and we've been just taking over mortgages, and you know, this has been a good way for me to build like this cash flow with zero to no money out of pocket.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of my strategy. I'm going to leverage creative financing to acquire as many properties as I can. My goal is to have over 100 minimum.
Right.
I'm saying this now because it's kind of the start, but you know, once I get to the level of like people out there with like 2,000, 3,000, you know,
that's
like,
the next level.
Like doors, like yeah, that's my end goal. But for now, I'm kind of like going slowly and just taking it easy and enjoying the journey.
Cool, because I mean, a lot of the people that are listening out here, you hear just getting 100 doors, it seems crazy enough as it is. But then you keep mentioning creative financing, and I'm aware of creative financing too. And once I heard about that, it definitely blew my mind, because I was like, there's other ways to actually get properties without putting 20 or 25% down.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're thinking about building a real estate portfolio, you're putting 20 or 20%, 25% down, especially here in California. Like, how unfeasible is that to do that multiple times? I mean, you're thinking about, like, let's say probably $80,000 that you're putting down per property. How long are you going to actually save up to actually get $80,000 to put down on something, and then do that again and again and again? Yeah. But with creative financing, like you're talking about, like subject to, which stands for subject to the existing loan, you could actually take over somebody's mortgage if they have low equity in the property, or maybe you could take it over seller finance, like you were mentioning, where they have a lot of equity in the process, and then instead of treating them, you're essentially treating them like a bank. So you're giving them money monthly increments in order to pay for the equity that they have in the home. So like, these are very affordable options that anybody could do, and it is not unfeasible for you to actually reach your goal of 100 doors within this short period of time frame. And then getting up to that 2,000, yeah, it's just going to be another mental break, another paradigm shift, but at the same time, like, it is completely achievable, and you have this community that's going to back you up in this process. So more power to you. Like, this is going to be a great deal for you.
Yeah, and then like, sorry to cut you off, but when we hear, right, you can buy a property with zero money out of pocket, zero
credit.
So no credit, no credentials, and zero money out of pocket. That's what they're referring to, right? Because if I wanted, I could buy a bunch of properties already. But I'm kind of like, I have a goal that I want to follow. But you don't really need money to buy a property. If you take somebody else's mortgage and you get maybe a hard money loan, you literally come in as zero money out of pocket, and you just have an asset that it's either cash flowing, or you're just, you know, like zero expenses, and eventually once you pay off, you kind of just go from there.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just, people think like they have a closed mentality, I guess. Maybe not understand the power of creative financing and power of real estate, but it's actually possible, and people are actually awakening for that now, and so we are creating a whole different energy in the industry, I think, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, no, it's good, because I mean, a lot of people, especially if you're hearing this for the first time, you may not even have been exposed to creative financing. So like, yeah, you do have a limited mindset only because you haven't been exposed to what else is out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, me and you are talking right now about like how beneficial creative financing can be, but at the same time, like what else are we not privy to that could actually even magnify our own businesses? So yeah, definitely, if you haven't heard of creative financing, get into it. If you haven't heard of Subject 2, you may be asking like, why would somebody just allow you to take over their mortgage? Well, I mean, consider this, like sometimes people have a job relocation where they have to move out of state and they just bought a property. So does that mean they're going to have to pay 2 mortgages? Like what happens if they sell a year after they bought it? If you bought a house before, you're probably going to know that you're going to have to pay agent fees, closing costs, like appraisal fees and all this stuff that were, at the end of the day, you're probably going to have to come up out of pocket. So wouldn't it be better for you to actually just have somebody take over the property instead of you paying money to get out of that one?
Yeah, no, and it's funny you mentioned, I have here the first deal that I closed on.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
We have a little technical difficulty here with the camera. Hopefully we can keep recording. Let's see. I think this is a good one to record. And yeah.
So yeah, speaking of my first deal that I was referring to in the beginning, and what you're saying right now, my first deal, I would have closed in 2 days, but the agent didn't pick up as usual. Didn't pick up their phone the first time I called her, and then I called her a second time. And then right away I just pitched sub 2, and I'm like, hey, would you be open to me taking over your existing mortgage and make payments on your behalf? And she's like, oh, what do you mean? And it was funny because she was actually the agent of the home. So she owned the asset and she was the agent listing the asset. And so I was like, okay, let me understand a little bit what's going on. I see that the home has been in the market for a minute, started just asking a couple of questions. And she's like, yeah, so here's the deal. I was living in this property and I could no longer afford it. So I moved out. I tried renting it. Couldn't do it. I did a bunch of renovations. The home was like new flooring, new roof. It was pretty decent, or it was decent. Let's put that way. There's no pretty decent, but so I was like, yeah. But then she told me like she was behind 2 months in payments, and the market shifted, so she couldn't sell it. And at that point, she was just gonna lose money. So I was like, okay, this is in my head. I was like, this is the best sub 2 ever, right?
Right.
So I was like, hey. Let me send you a package that we have. I can go over with you about sub 2. So this is what I can do for you, and let me take over those payments. I'll help you over time to improve your credit that you already screwed up, and it will cut you a check to actually walk out with some money in your pocket, right? And that she was like, dude, how come I never heard of this, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then people like to hear about addresses and stuff like that, right? So you guys can go look it up. 824 Southwest Hillside Drive in Texas, Burleson. I think that's how you spell it. So it's a 3-2 house, 1,200 square feet, 1970. New roof completed before closing. The purchase price was $255. Entry fee total was $23,000 plus closing costs. So this is what we were talking about, right?
Wow.
You're buying an asset with pretty much $25,000 total. Like.
And how much was that property worth?
I'm not sure, but I think it was like a little less than that, because so when she bought it, she probably overpaid and the market kind of shifted. So it was pretty much the ARV was close to that. And so it's interesting because we catch up her arrears. It was $6,500. And
the arrears are what again?
So arrears was she was behind in 2 payments. So we catch up the arrears. We catch up the 2 payments that she was behind.
Okay, so they're back payments.
Yeah, they're back payments. Okay. Exactly. Yeah, and then her loan balance was $237. So the purchase price $255. Loan balance $237. PITI was $2,100 a month, and the interest rate was it wasn't the best one, but it was 5.6. So it was a great deal for a short-term rental or a mid-term rental. And what happened was we assigned that deal for $12,000. So
wow.
We were not only able to help the seller, she was in a bad situation. She was like, I think she was a high school teacher or something. Okay. Very sweet lady, and I was happy to close my first deal, but I was also happy, like, I literally helped this lady get out of this situation. She walked away. I think it was like $5,000. I think it was like a $5,000 check, but because she had a lien or something, I don't remember exactly right now. She walked away with like $1,600 at the end of the day, but we were able to catch up all her payments.
Exactly.
And so she walked away like, okay, knowing that her credit's going to be built up over time, and she was like sure that the property was well taken care of. So.
Yeah, which is awesome, because I mean, if it wasn't for you, she would have had to come up out of pocket in order to sell that property.
Or God knows, because she was already behind on her payments, right? So
yeah,
maybe somebody would buy it, but then she would still like own. I don't know how everything would work, but she would be in the bad position for sure. Like God knows what was going to happen, but she was definitely going to be in debt
right.
And I mean, it's a high school teacher. We all know how teachers are also
not the best financed around here.
Yeah. I mean, cooks, teachers, people that should be getting paid good money, and
right.
Yeah, and we know the whole situation with that. Right?
Yeah, it's just not really in their favor, but it's good that you're actually able to help her situation out. And then you're thinking about it too. I think you said the loan amount was like $255,000. So you're coming in with a buyer. I think ultimately they paid around like 30 something because you had your $15,000 commission or your assignment fee in there. But all in all, you're getting a $255,000 property for $30,000. So if you're putting in 20% in that's $40,000. So imagine if you bought this property and you didn't have to have the assignment fee on top of that. Now you're subtracting $15,000 from that, and you're just getting a property. So I need the audience to understand like how beneficial this process can be, and how achieving 100 houses is well within the realm of possibility. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, and with the community that we have, it's so easy because people are posting these deals. Just like myself, there are people that are posting these deals with assignments, and you can literally buy 30 houses in a year. And I've heard people doing that. Actually, they never spoke to a seller, they never spoke to an agent, and they bought 28 deals in a year.
That's crazy.
Just getting the assignment from other students like myself, and either getting a hard money loan or using their own money and buying assets that are cash flowing or whatever their strategy is. So that's like $30,000 you can buy properties, and in some cases not use your own money. Like this is my goal. This is what I'm.
It's fantastic. Yeah. So anybody who's new that's listening to this, like, what advice would you give them?
First of all, go partner up with sub 2 students. We know what we're doing, and we can help you in this process. Definitely get educated about creative financing and the whole process of real estate in general. The real estate transactions, and work with people that have been doing it for a minute. I think it's going to help a lot of people. And my advice will be, if you're trying to get into it, go work for someone. I think this is what I did, and I think it helped me a lot. And then after you do that, you can definitely go on your own and just or keep working for someone. But definitely it's a numbers game, and the people who give up, they're never gonna make it. So it's hard, it's not easy, but if you put the work and you put the effort, you're gonna make it, and you're gonna be fine. There are moments that everyone wants to give up, but that's when that's the difference between like people that are doing well and people that they're never gonna achieve anything.
Exactly.
So I think like a good advice is just go work for someone, go partner up with someone. If you guys have deals, bring it to me. I'm happy to assist you. And Brandon too here, we can help you guys out, closing a deal, talking to a seller, disposing the deal, whatever you guys need. If you think you have a deal, obviously don't bring just a listing and like, hey, I think I have a deal, but
we're not just gonna call your leads.
Like if you think you have something, bring it to us. We're gonna help you. We can cut you a check. We can do a JV, joint venture deal with you, and we got a lot of projects on cooking up. And so
a lot of big things over the horizon.
We're definitely going to be able to help people that are trying to get into it. And if anyone have any questions and want to just hear more about what I'm doing, I'm definitely open to, hopping on a call or email, whatever, Instagram.
Sweet. So I did want to touch on a couple of things. You mentioned this business. It's hard. It's not easy. And things that I like to say is what we're doing specifically. It's a simple process. Pick up the phone, talk to people, get a deal, close it. But that process is so inherently difficult because of the consistency, the follow-ups, the amount of work that you have to do in order to actually achieve that process consistently is what streams out. It pretty much isolates the ones who are actually going to make it in this business and the ones who aren't. Because if you think about it, getting into this industry is actually really easy. All you need is a cell phone. And sometimes you don't even need that because you have a team to do stuff for you. So getting into this business, all you need is just the knowledge, right? And sometimes just confidence. Sometimes you don't even need knowledge. You just need the confidence to actually go out and do it. But so few people actually do that it actually weeds out a lot of your competition. So if you're thinking that, everybody's doing this. Well, a lot of people are doing this, but a lot of people aren't doing it well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they get discouraged immediately when they hit that first no, because just like you said, it's a numbers game. How many people do you need to talk to in order to get that first deal? Well, it's probably going to be somewhere in the thousands. And if that overwhelms you, well, partially, it should overwhelm you initially.
Yeah.
But then you start getting into like the tips and tricks in order to make that process a lot more efficient for you. And then at the same time, is consistency. Get 1% better every single day. Practice your calls. Talk to Lucas. Call him up. And think about, okay, what strategy am I going to implement today? How am I going to get that 1% better so that I could actually get a little bit closer to the closing line, right? So there's going to be times where sometimes, like based on, like I think it's the universe actually kind of repays you after a while, because at some point you call enough people and sometimes a deal just falls on your lap.
Yeah.
You call somebody up and say, hey, are you looking to sell? And they say, yeah, absolutely. It's like, okay, cool. Well, I've been here before. How much are you trying to sell it for? And it turns out that number is like 50% of the value that you were originally anticipating. Then you start getting nervous, your phone starts trembling, you almost drop your phone and you're like, this isn't real. Like, what do I do next? And it's just, the universe kind of rewards you for like that consistent action that you're constantly taking. It's a numbers game. You're going to be talking to thousands of people. And once you get your first deal, it's not going to stop. You're going to continue talking to thousands of people. And then after a while, that process gets more and more efficient. The more you learn, the more you educate yourself, the software that you use in order to streamline that process. Sometimes using virtual assistants to call on your behalf. You start leveraging other people's time. You leverage other people's money in order to make your business a lot more effective. But you have to start. And that's like the critical thing is a lot of people sometimes actually gather information and fail to start. And some people gather or don't even gather information. They just go head into it or head first into it. And going head first into this business is actually the way to go. But at the same time, you also have to learn from your mistakes and strive to get better in that process too. You can't just keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So I know you mentioned people can call you. So what are some ways that people can go ahead and contact you?
Yeah, before I say that, like you said, you can literally get in this business with a phone and a computer or internet. That's how you can get in. But if you're not able to take action, make calls and follow up, because it's also a follow-up game, and deal with people that sometimes don't know what you're doing. Like, I'm sorry, but this is not the game that you want to play. This is the game for people that are taking action and they want to be successful. And if you put the work, you're gonna harvest, all the flowers and the best way to contact me is by Instagram, I think, or Facebook. Lucas Sales San Diego or Lucas Sales SD. I don't know right now, but just shoot me a message. I would have put my phone number here, but I don't want it to blast. I already talked to a lot of people.
Right.
And just hit me up. Let's connect. And I'm looking to make new friends, people that are like-minded and trying to grow. I got a lot of good stuff coming up and can't tell much right now, but if you got deals, if you want to connect, if you have private money lenders or connections that you think might be beneficial for everyone, let's connect.
Awesome. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're actually, if you're listening to this on a podcast, we'll have Lucas's information in the show notes, so go ahead and check that out. And yeah, I think that's it. So Lucas, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you having me here, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank